mom's birthday. I have to be done in 2 hours because I got
I already knew that.
Yeah,
so I'm not going to go into too much of an extended soliloquy here.
Well, that's okay.
But I'm going to make my points.
I'm fine with that. Absolutely.
Well, it's very important. It's very important right now for me.
Yeah.
Oh, I agree, man. And it's just, Anna and I were part of a lot of stuff at GaryCon for that 50th. There's a lot going on there this year. It was pretty interesting. So, let me see my buttons work.
I'm glad you enjoyed that.
Yeah, it was. Well, enjoyed is one thing. Burnt out by it's another. Because it was.
It was
2 weekends.
12 days.
Oh my God! Yeah.
Yeah, it was 12 days of convention for me.
It was too much.
Like a little bit too much in the end. Yeah.
Yeah, it was too much. We got through it though.
But it only happens once in a lifetime, so
yeah, that's what I said.
Definitely worth it.
I'm not gonna be around for the 100th. I highly doubt it. I'll be 107.
I was around for the 50th, and I didn't get to celebrate it at GaryCon because I wasn't playing.
Yeah, sorry about that, man.
Yeah.
You don't have to be sorry about that. People choose what they wish to go with this thing. So that's kind of part of the thing I'm talking about today, but I'm not going to mention it. It has nothing to do with GaryCon.
That's cool.
And so it's not political. It's really about It's about creation.
Well,
and
that's fine. I mean, we're all in the dark. We're gonna have a little our normal Sunday night show. We're gonna have a speculation show too on Sunday. So I know you're up in the middle of the night sometimes, so because that just needs to be done. I usually don't go there.
No, but this I think it's worth speculating.
What is it that you mean by don't go there?
Well, I normally don't go there because what happens is I create a firestorm, right? Right.
But the firestorm is already going, so we can just join in speculating.
Yeah.
Listen, the whole thing about Greyhawk and this whole thing coming out, it's all over the net. I mean, everyone's pretty much.
And trust me, I'm taking advantage of it. So I have because I've gotten a little arrogant there, Rob, and put down as Will Harry Dvorak said. Jay, you need to take advantage of it. You got the longest ongoing continuous game, around, and you need to jump on that. You need to be seen as the forefront leader of the Greyhawk community because everyone is going to start searching on Twitch and places for what's going on, right? So
exactly.
I'm trying to jump on that. Yeah.
We can't be quiet in this because I have an opinion and what I think they want, what they want them to do, and now is the time to say so.
What's that, Rob?
Listen to me. I helped start Greyhawk.
I know that.
Yeah.
This all goes back. Let's not concentrate on Greyhawk. All this stuff kind of segues together.
Yeah.
To what I talk about. This whole thing isn't just about. This whole thing is about what has been going on ever since WotC became the inheritor.
Well, yeah, but
and if you make it about Greyhawk, it'll just die on that hill, right?
Well,
but
that's
if you made it,
yeah, okay.
If you make it about industry versus players, the creators versus the industry, this is where it's really all coming. There's a reason and we'll get into this, but there's reasons to track for all these. And to specifically continue to come up and continue to reinforce notation after notation as a sum. So in this case, it's still the same thing. But people need to coalesce here. They need to understand this isn't just about Greyhawk. Greyhawk is a symptom of the underlying thing of wiping out the history of the beginning of this game. And just put sideline. I'm going to go into a couple areas here, which is going to segue back into what you're talking about. You can expand upon it. If you don't like firestorms, which I'm not trying to create myself, I'm just noting these things, what they are and what they possibly mean. And Greyhawk, like I said, is a symptom of that. What was the first world?
Back in
Who created it?
When we first began working with Gary Gygax,
was Gary.
He pitched this wonderful series of books to us.
What do we have?
Yeah, he called them the Gygaxian fantasy worlds. And what he
oh yeah, true. But this corporation is all about the money, not about history. So they're doing. My opinion is that Greyhawk, they put it in there because they're desperate to capture some of the old audience, because the old audience is the only one that has money.
And there was really
the only one has deep pockets, right?
How come I'm viewing Steve Chanel right now?
Because it's an ad for Troller Games.
Yeah.
Oh, it is.
3 that were ready to go to print.
I'm not hearing anything.
Right, because it's set through. You have to have Twitch on.
We are bringing
if I had that going through, our talk too, you'd go insane, right? And then it would verb back into the broadcast. So yeah,
as we were working.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
It's talking about Gary's World Builders archive that they're bringing out.
The Kickstarter does.
Yep.
And maybe even more than that. Once
that's good.
Push beyond,
yeah. The last the thing they worked, Gary worked with the
Gary Gygax
Troll Lord.
And please give us,
Indeed.
give us your support. Share it around if you can.
By the way, Alan normally comes on right at the time he needs to, so he usually comes on right at the top of the hour.
Very much
so.
Listen, this is very personal.
Troll Lord Games, join the fray.
Anniversary. There's a D&D documentary out there being made. All these books have been written on it. You know the books. We see them. There's histories of D&D out there. I have never been contacted once for these books. Even some of the stuff when the other people were alive, Ward, Menser, the rest of them, they haven't been contacted. So
people want to get their piece of the pie, whether it's right or wrong. It's it's kind of infuriating, but I just ignore it. I mean, like, oh, it's another book. Rob, you should see how many freaking YouTube discussion points come out, and I'm like, what? These guys don't have any idea what the hell they're talking about. You know what I mean? I say that all the time. I'm like, they're not. It's just like.
Listen, Jay, Anna.
I ignore all that. Yeah, I ignore them.
I get books written where they're referencing me all over the place, but they never come to me to ask what the referencing is true or false. And then, because of that, that book is then referenced to build my Wikipedia history, which is totally wrong in a lot of places. And I cannot change because they're referencing a book that's got false information in it.
Yeah, but who cares, Rob? I don't want to be a jerk, but this is what's going to happen. People were assholes. I'm just being blunt, right? Right?
I don't think they're assholes. I think it's purposeful.
I think people have their own agendas. That's what I think. Including Watsy. So, hey, look, I'm not any fan of Watsy at all. I can tell you some stories, but I'll get in trouble. I got to keep my mouth shut, right, Anna? They were not accommodating at all at GaryCon, and it was a little putting back. Plus, I've tried to contact them multiple times for some things, and there's a difference between getting an email back or a message back saying, "Hey, sorry we can't work on anything today," or "Sorry we can't discuss anything with you," and not even responding, which infuriates the hell out of me. That's the worst. Not even responding back, and that's where we are right now with them.
I've been dealing with that all my life.
I understand that, but everyone knows that, Rob. We all know that. We all sympathize.
Hi, Alan.
I'm trying to keep Rob. From blowing up in the first 5 minutes.
No, Jay, you're wrong. I'm a Libra. I'm very balanced. I only push things when they cross my line and they're crossing the line.
When they need to be pushed. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hey, don't say anything. Just give me my platform and let me do my soliloquy.
Okay. I'll let Alan stop you.
Good luck with that.
Hi, Alan. There needs to be
Morning, Rob.
There's too much eradication of the past and reforming it under this postmodernist robber baron attitude. And I'm going to point out some things to you that you haven't heard of.
All right, I'm also going to tell you this, okay? I'm going to tell you something that you don't know, all right? That I guarantee you don't know. That Anna and I are involved in something with someone close to you, that you were close to, that is trying to undo that, all right? So, Anna, how can I say anymore?
You can't say anymore.
And trying to honor the old Greyhawk and create new stuff at the same time. So I'm just telling you that there's stuff going on that's really good, really good. But
the end of the story is not written yet. So.
Yeah, the end of the story is not written yet, but it could.
Why don't you just say? Why don't you just say I was involved? Repeat that beginning. We're good. I'm gonna. What time is it? All right, we're gonna come. Let's come live.
Yeah, let's go on.
Come on. Understand what you were inferring.
Yeah, we got some good stuff going on. Even Alan doesn't know.
But you said that I was involved with that blah blah blah, something like that.
I'm trying to say that there's stuff that let's just come live. Come live. It's the 300th Gabbin too, everyone. Do you believe that?
Yeah.
It's number 300. 300th show.
So let's go with a bang here.
Hallmark one that is going to go down in history for you.
Yeah, or infamy, or I'm going to get a 60-day ban on Twitch.
Rather than yep.
Yes, good morning. So, I'm sorry about the time. The time has to be at 9 here. Rob's in Corsica, and I got my mom's birthday party, and look at that. Wow, is that 1987?
Yeah, that's Dragon Con 1. I dug it up after reading the newsletter last night. So, Rob, we know who the moderator was now.
Oh.
He's on the AD&D team.
Yep.
87.
He used to be my neighbor on Lakeshore Drive as well, in the same complex as with Frodo Bell.
So,
anyway.
Wow. Rob, it's great to have you back. I'm just giving you, like I said, I'm in some serious pain here, so I'm in one of those moods this morning, but it's good. Rob,
sorry, you're in pain.
You're back. Thanks. This is the fourth time we've had Rob on, everyone. It's early in the morning. A lot of people are still rolling in, so I guess let's have at it. We got Alan Growy. Thank you, Alan, for coming. I know it's an hour difference for you, and it's 3 hours.
I'm going to shake it up today.
Yeah, he's going to shake it up.
Shake it up every day, Rob.
Yeah.
Shaken, not stirred.
No, don't pin me with that. I go, as the grump or the curmudgeon or whatever,
We all getting there, Rob. We will be curmudgeon-y very, very
I'm
soon.
not curmudgeon. Listen,
so
I'm a tracker of history. I am a student of Gary Gygax. I helped create this game.
Yeah.
I know where I'm coming from.
I agree on that. I know.
Started seeing all this movement of goalposts and all this postmodern bullshit. Rob, what was going on, and that talk about anybody you're robbing anymore. I don't like it. So if people are a little startled by that, that isn't because I'm a madman. It isn't because I'm a sad man. It's because I wish to tell the truth. Yeah,
I understand. Yes, and the truth. All right, I'm gonna go back to a TV. I'm gonna go back to a movie, a favorite TV movie. It was called The Pirates of Silicon Valley, and it was about Steve Jobs.
Yeah.
Okay, and I'll tell a true story. Movie. So he's working against him and Apple are going head to head, and they have their operating system with Mac, and then Windows comes out, right? And it comes out on all these NEC computers and stuff. And then, Steve Jobs says one thing, and Steve Jobs says to Bill Gates, "But we're always going to be better than you." And then Bill Gates goes back, "Steve, that doesn't matter." And he was right. It didn't matter. So what I'm telling you is the truth doesn't necessarily matter in the present, right, Rob? All I'm saying is there's a lot going on. We don't know. We're going to speculate.
I'm not trying to feed excuses for you to say that we can all just be nihilistic about this.
That's not my point.
My point is I'm talking about history. I'm still talking. So history is still being made. I'd like to point out I got 50 years of it.
I agree 100%. Look, and I respect the hell out of you and everyone else who's contributed to this game.
I'm not asking for respect. I'm asking for a platform, whether you agree with it or not, once I'm done talking about it.
Okay.
And then respect is earned.
Okay. Fair enough.
And I'm not standing upon 50 years to say, hey, you should respect me, because do not confuse the art with the artist.
Got it.
If what I have to say makes sense, then you might consider it. But that's not what I'm looking for.
Okay.
This game was created, in quotes, by creator. And where are these creators? Well, we know that some of them are dead today, and we honor them.
Yeah, Jim just passed.
Honoring one of them up in Minnesota very soon, come October.
Awesome.
And we can even go further on, because it just doesn't start and remain static at a point when we created this thing. This goes on, then marches on till now.
True.
And in between that change, when you get to the point of Gary being exited from the company, you have a whole history and a whole bunch of those creators in there, even Ed Greenwood. You go on with this list. Are they being invited to the D&D documentary? Are they?
So
are these creators?
But here's the answer is I have no idea.
No, they're not.
Secondly, Ed, who's playing in my game tonight, by the way, I DM for Ed, so it's just such an honor. Has taken what he is able to do and has made one of the most successful YouTube channels and Patreons in existence. It is freaking unbelievable the level of quality he's done. Ed has figured out how to beat them at their own game, right, Anna?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Alan, yeah. Ed has become like, and Ed is when he walked around, we don't have to talk about the con, but when Ed goes somewhere, people like worship Ed, right? All I'm saying is that Ed has reinvented himself, reinvented where he needs to be positionally. And
that's not what I'm trying to do, and
I understand that. I understand that.
Congratulate Ed for doing that and holding up his part of his investment in what he did as a creator. I have nothing but respect for that.
Yeah.
But what I'm trying to do here, I'm trying to make a documentary. Okay.
Got it. That sounds good.
And it's not about celebrity.
I understand.
In front of camera. Let me finish, because I have something to say. It is not about those people who didn't create the game and weren't there, and including those of the Ed Greenwoods and the Frank Mensers and the Tim Casters and the rest of them who were actually doing something in creating this game. And thus the rest of it comes from it. Now, we can all get cynical and say, Watsies over there, they're just a bunch of people raping and beating it to death for as much money as they can flog out of a dead horse, or whatever, however they view this thing. And I don't care what their point of view is, because they're inheritors of something and not creators of it. And this is the point I'm talking. It is about how everyone wants to stand around the carcass of this game and of Gary Gygax's legacy and of Dave Arneson's legacy and those who are involved, and like a bunch of hyenas in this industry, snap off pieces of it. And I'm not pointing fingers at people. I'm pointing mostly at Watts. The fans are the ones that held this thing together and are continuing to do so to this day.
Well, that's true, 100%.
So if those sound like harsh words in the 50th anniversary, think about all the investment.
Yeah.
Okay. Jay, yourself and Anna, you love this game. You love what this legacy has brought. You don't make the money off of it that you even consider making the money off of that you think you're worth. I mean, look at all the investment you put into it. Same thing for Alan. This is about the fans being, hey, you put this thing out there and everyone got something from it and has changed the freaking world. And what is the sum of it? You can't even talk about these people who did that in your documentary. You want to then subsume it all into a current present and just ignore the past? No, I'm not going to let that happen. I'm becoming more and more outspoken about it. And it's not because of some flagrant ego. I mean, I sat there and did all what I did because I wanted to do it. I didn't get paid for it. When we were play testing the game, we didn't even know it was going to be a hit. We had the sense that we thought was great and was spectacular, but we didn't know it was going to be anything. It was just a crapshoot like everything else. And in the 50th year, not to be ignored and to let some celebrities and supposed historians fill the void and then gloss over everything like it didn't happen. And these people are gone, not going to be memory hole. I don't think any of these people mentioned the rest of them who's still living. I mean, Jim Ward just passed. God, rest in peace. Yes. Did they ask him to come to the documentary to explain how he met Gary Gygax at the Lake Geneva Regional Newsstand? No. And under what circumstances? As a substitute teacher, he just happened to be in Lake Geneva at the junior high school, and that's how he ended up at the newsstand, picking up 10 volumes of paperback science fiction and fantasy books. Who's going to tell this story, and why is it worth it?
Someone should.
Well, that's what I want to do.
Well, I think that's a great idea.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're coming at the same thing at two different directions. What I'm saying to you, and what I'm hopefully Anna and Alan agree with me on, is you need to beat them at their own game, and it's possible to do that. I know you may want to hear that. Like, for example, my Altamira publication through Troller Games. It was in Greyhawk.
Listen, I'm 68 going on 69.
I understand that.
This is the 50th anniversary.
I understand that.
I'm not playing a game. I am trying to tell the truth. I'm not trying to beat them at their own game. They didn't create the game.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to get this truth out there.
So
I care less about what WotC is doing. They're just a bunch of highway robbers beating a horse its worth, and now they got their sights set on Greyhawk. So, what is it? People wish for it to come back now. There's loathing because, their track record for Forgotten Realms and even the altercations with Dragonlance and Ravenloft, even changing everything. But that's what postmodernists do. They change things, cripple it, turn it into nothing, and then claim it's theirs again. And they rewrite the history. I'm not interested in playing a game of WotC. I'm interested in getting this thing out there. And if you want to call that a game, that's fine. But it's the actual history of it. And so it's not about us against them. It's about what is the truth. What drives creators to do this thing? What drives them, the fans, to get behind those creators? It's not a slavish adherence to industry. This was a hobbyist born industry.
Right.
Rob, can you give us a couple of anecdotes that you think that haven't been aired enough and hasn't been in the documentaries that you want out, so to speak? Now's your chance. One of many chances.
I'm going to approach this from a different direction, which will kind of into your thing. 1 year after Gary died, I was approached by Flint Dilley. We all know who Flint Dilley is. And if you don't, Flint Dilley was the brother of Lorraine Williams.
Got it.
And worked with Gary on several projects and agreed to do the biopic on him after his death, which Gary secured Flint to do. Now Flint called me, and he wanted me to give the whole story. This is 1 year after Gary died. Wanted me to give the whole story because he didn't have the story about those days, because I was a 13-year-old when I met Gary and was a student and his DM and so forth and so on, almost adopted by the family. Everyone knows this. And Flint came to me for the story. And I said, well, you know, Flint, you asked me to sit here for months and answer questions to give you the whole story. And I've written a screenplay and started another. I know the form. Just bring me in. He said, no, well, Gail Gygax doesn't want that. And I said, okay. Well, if you think I'm going to give you the story because you don't have it, I'm not giving it to you. So we parted, and he came back. The second time, and he started another avenue with it, and I said, has anything changed? And he said, no. And he still was working on the script, and it wasn't doing too well. And I said, well, I haven't changed. If you change, we'll do this. The third time was a communication on Facebook, which I still have a screenshot of. And where he said, Rob, this is months later, he says, Rob, this biopic is turning into fiction. He says, there's nothing really in it, of course, because they don't have the story. And he says, do you still want your character in this script? And I said, under those conditions, absolutely not. And so we know how far the biopic went. Now let's go, that died on the vine. Now let's go forward. 2018.
Okay.
I'm approached by a director and a writer team out of Austin, Texas, who want to secure my life rights to make a series on this. So we're not talking documentaries yet, right? But these people are trying to put this into a cinematic release. And about the time I got through, you know, I studied pre-law at University of Whitewater. I know all sorts of contract law and stuff. They sent me a contract which is full of mines. In fact, if I had signed it, I wouldn't be able to talk to you right now.
Okay.
That's how much they had me locked down in this contract. And I couldn't have done anything. So I said, you know, I even passed it off to some Hollywood friends of mine. And they said, don't sign this thing. He says, you're dooming your life if you do this. And they said, well, it was just a boilerplate and this and that. I won't name these people, just like I'm not going to name the third.
Okay.
But that went down the hill too. So because everyone wants this thing, but everyone wants a story, but no one wants to involve me in it. This is the third one. The third one, which happened two and a half years later, from what I just told you, is a well-known A-list, who's been in A-list movies, actor, who also has a production company in Hollywood. I'm not going to name his name, right? So they want the story. They've been tracking me down on the web, and they've been finding out that I'm the one on my blog and doing all these publications and stuff that seem to be talking about the history of this. It seems to know what the fuck they're talking about. And they say, we like, in fact, it was the Ian World article about me meeting Gary Gygax in 1968, when we met, that really confirmed that I had this view on it and that my memory was still as crisp as it always was, because I have what Gary called an eidetic memory. In fact, right now, as we sit here, I could turn in my seat. I envisioned that Gary's, wherever you place me in that house on Center Street, I could turn in it and tell you where all the things were at in those rooms. In his study, in the dining room where he played the board games and the demo game and a lot of games before even there was a sand table in the basement. And so I got with this third, and they wanted the story from me, the way it turned out. And I'm not going to elaborate upon it, but what it came down to was a good cop, bad cop situation in between me being told by the principal, who not going to name, to deal with his lawyers who are also his agents. This is an interesting one because the agents get paid if they close the deal. And they're going to be paid off what they offer you or what they take away from me. But in the end, what they did was just want the story for me under an option that when you looked at the contract, even if they didn't sell the project upstream, this was a 20 episode series that they were pushing, that they would still retain all the information. So they were trying to scout me for the story. Once again, I sent it to Hollywood people when I flagged the things. They didn't want, they said, don't sign this contract unless you get these things changed. In fact, the guy I sent it to said, hey, I got the contract. I have my flags up on it, but I want to know what you know, what you saw. And I told him what I saw and was concerned about. He says, same thing for me. He says, either you changed it, and they wouldn't change it. So they were trying to steal the story from me. In fact, they brought in two showrunners, Jay, one from Australia, one from LA, to try to pump the story out of me without the contract being signed. So I said, I can't do this, and I cut them out too. So what we have here are 3 attempts to get this story from me in different ways over different times. And then there's a suppression that's going on about this story on the internet and in these other documentaries. So where would you sit at this point? Would you be mad? I mean, would you be sad? Or would you
I would write a book. Rob, you have a publishing platform. Write a book. Write it down. Publish it. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I am writing it. But,
that will be your own words on your own platform. No one can censor you, and publish it.
Well, I'm going to
go from there.
But I wish to put out a documentary.
Yeah, but publish it in book form. That way you have it copyrighted in your own words on your own platform, and then if you with a bit of luck and some good work behind it, it will take off, so to speak. You need to put your version of the story out there. You have your own platform, your own publishing platform.
Well,
write it down and publish it. Yeah,
I understand. I appreciate it, but I think it's better in our media-oriented age, considering that we are now approaching going beyond the 50th anniversary.
Yeah.
And we are very media oriented.
Yeah, but as soon as you get someone else to pay for the production and do all that,
I'm not arguing against the book. But what I want to do is get the creators from that time involved in the documentary. Make a creators documentary. And talk about Greyhawk. That would include you. And others.
Well, I'm just a fan that got in late.
Remember in LA when I tried to get you into the documentary and had them film you?
Yeah.
I mean, this is what we're talking about. That was 2013.
Yeah.
I haven't changed that point of view about creators being the ones who are driving this game. and are the ones that keep it alive.
But that is
And
different.
so-
That's a different, or like a different chapter in the documentary. Meaning, people like Jamie, Alan, and others, we come in much later in the story as being part of keeping it alive and to continue to create for something that you, Gary, and a bunch of others created long before.
I understand the timing in this, but you gotta understand, we start out as creators. I started out as a fan.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm still a fan to this day.
Yeah.
But it just irritates me, in fact, disgusts me.
Yeah.
That this. So I want the opportunity to say our side of the story, as long as the people left.
Yeah.
And they're
but
dying like
Rob,
flies.
my advice, don't rely on others. Don't try to make a production company or someone else tell you a story. You need to tell it. Tell it on the platform that you own and control in a format that you are very well versed to do, meaning writing. You've done it for decades and you do it. Then the story is there. Then you get the chance to get it picked up, and also then the story is out in the format that you control, and so on. So
you could do that in two types of formats, Rob. I mean,
Yeah.
you could tell your story straight, like Anna's saying, but you could also do a collection of these other stories
Yep.
that you want to include in the documentary. These remembrances from the other core creators, the original creators.
You own the whole rights. You own all the rights to
I
them
think
because it would
people are
be.
getting beyond the point I'm at right now. I'm just trying to crystallize an idea here.
Yeah.
And the idea is, or I already have people behind me with this. I have people who are behind this documentary. The idea is to tell the story of the beginning, so that it's generalized and specific in areas enough for everyone to understand that the documentary that's being put out is by watching is not the history of this game in the least from the beginning. It's going to be glossed. You know, WotC has reach. I'm not talking about some podcasts and stuff like this. I'd never go there. This is a feature documentary. It's going to take $2 million to make.
Mm-hmm.
This is a feature, and it's going to get this worldwide distribution. And I've already got the plans. I've got hundreds of pages written on this document already. That's where I put my writing into. I'm a visual person. And yes, I can portray that in writing, but it's going to actually have more impact visuals in a documentary. We are an image-driven society now, right? Whether you like it or not, we're an image-driven society, and this is what they're going to be doing. All the successful documentaries, at least, if you're not adopting some sort of standard, coming in there and plopping yourself down and asking questions. They're getting more mixed media now with these documentaries. It's not the standard question and answer. So I'm looking at something like that, bringing the animation and filling in gaps that people are missing. Right now, Gary's missing. I'm speaking for him as his student. They're not asking. There's no one who knows his mind better than I do. I could tell you anything you wanted to know about Gary Gygax as a designer right now. Can anybody do that? You know why? Because I was a student. So let's get this down. He put me in a way of learning everywhere. I sat on his daybed in his den as he typed manuscripts over and over, and he handed me each page afterwards for me to read, and then to make sure I was reading them would question me. What'd you think of that? And stuff like that to make sure I was reading them. So I give him feedback. So who's going to give that story? And how's it going to be presented? I can sit there and go on and on about that experience in a book. It's not going to have the impact that if you visualize it anyway and you put it into those sorts of semblance of order within a story that we're painting. We're not trying to kill people with information. We're trying to get to the essence of what all this meant, you know,
But
and still means to this day, as long as I'm alive.
I think Anna's saying
For
it's a
my
good Kickstarter to get this thing rolling.
Well, the
That's right.
important bit is that you first that you get it out there in a format that you control, because then the story got its roots and its origin.
Yeah.
And don't hand it over to another production company to do something. You need to write it down first and publish it.
I've
And
never
then they
handed over to any production company.
Good.
In fact, the documentary I have right now, my contract has expired with them.
Oh, okay, good. Yeah.
But they're good people. But they I'm not going to talk about that. They were a little bit scared. They became scared of the D&D documentary.
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
I don't think they know how to react to it. And I kept on telling them it doesn't make any difference. They don't have the story. And that's the point. But, you know, so what it really comes down to, when you talk to the fans, you see, you talk to Ellen and you and Jay and others who I've talked to, right? They say, yeah, this needs to get out there. This sort of documentary, when I put up my stuff about meeting the Gygaxes in 1968 on Ian World, in one of my columns, they said, hey, this is the type of movie we want to see. This is what we want to see. We don't want to see these smooth talking people who weren't there, who are creating an infomercial for their company. Because that's what I think. I think that's what it is. Now,
well, Wizard of the Coast, I think,
rub that comment right straight up my sphincter for all it's worth.
Yeah.
And I would retract. But what I'm seeing and what I'm hearing about this stuff, where you're not including anybody and you're schmoozing the modern age D&D'er, this is the 50th anniversary. Are they really doing send-ups to it? I mean, I don't see it.
Well, Wizard of the Coast, meaning they will have a 50-year anniversary documentary that the creation of the game will be the first little bit, because that's not what they want to concentrate on. No, but and I can understand them, meaning they are a company, they need to answer to their investors, and that's the purpose of the company, so to speak, to make money. And in order to do so, they need to have a product that appeals to the masses today. And so far, then I've done a good job of that part, but to honor the original creation and stuff like that, no, that's not that's not their purpose as a company, and we have to acknowledge that. Meaning, it's a capitalist economy in that sense.
That they could care less about the history that is making.
I wouldn't put it that far. I think they from their perspective ignore. It's not their purpose, and they ignore it as much as they can. I don't think they're out there to trash it, but they also make sure that it doesn't kind of take precedence over what they want to do. That I would put it that so to speak.
They have different priorities than we do.
I see it as erasing history by omission. So
exactly, their priority, like you're saying, Rob, is not to tell the truth of the creation of the game and the perspective of the original creators. Their priority is to perpetuate the game in the form that they're selling it.
Yeah.
Right. Which is why your story and the rest of the creators is so important to get out.
And I'm coming from that perspective of criticism. I believe there's a lot more veneer to what people think about this. Let's go back to a World of Greyhawk marketing plan that I pushed with Gary's approval to Watson, which you're all familiar with. In fact, I know Anna has read it. So they didn't respond to that. What Gary says, a great first pass, because they said, now that Atkinson and company are in control, why don't we give a shot across the bow, and I'll write up the marketing plan. And he said, go ahead. And then he liked it. We shoveled it to him, never got a response.
That's, I know how you feel on that, Rob. I do.
Don't isolate it. Don't isolate it, Jay, please. Because it's continuous. It's been continuous over and over and over again. So they could have rebuilt the Gygax relationship and the Greyhawk Foundation from ground zero.
100%. But they think don't.
But they didn't want to because it's not because at that point they really established their market with third edition, which was upcoming. This was before even third was released. It was because they didn't wish to acknowledge something any longer exists because they were in control of it. They have the power, and they go like this in everyone's faces. And
they don't have the power. They have that power. There's other powers. That's all. That's the point. That's the point I'm trying to make.
Well, the OGL kind of shown that the fans have power too.
They have done stuff to screw themselves over the last 2 years.
Yeah.
My opinion is this Greyhawk thing's desperation in this book because they know they're in big trouble. That's my opinion on it.
No, I wouldn't agree with you, Jay, that it's desperation.
You believe that break glass in case of an emergency? You believe that's where it's at?
That's my opinion. I disagree on a lot of things, and that's okay. But I think I think they know that the people with money are Greyhawk people. Because they ain't getting money from people living in their mom's basements, right? And that's this D&D Beyond thing has infuriated everyone. If you know about that, now you can't a la carte things out of there, and you got to buy the whole publications. People that used to be their allies on Twitter and all are going nuts over that. They have done some really things that have really turned even their fervent.
I understand all that as a background, but once again, that's just symptomatic. It really comes down to an attitude that they have, which they've expressed for the longest time. Doesn't matter who carried the brand, and when Atkinson and Stevens and the rest of them
still not fixed
for Hasbro, it didn't change really. Even with Merle's in there for a little bit, trying to champion Greyhawk and whatever else, because Merle's likes Greyhawk.
He's also the happiest guy in the world now that he's not there anymore.
Yeah.
So he was really first time we ever got. Remember, the first time we ever got to sit down with him after he left Watson. He was a carry card.
I can sympathize. Meaning, I can sympathize with Mike Merles because I had a job where I couldn't talk about much when I had it. So I can really sympathize with sometimes when you have a position you can't say much because when you have the position, people would weigh in on every damn word you're saying to decipher something out there, whether they want to or not, so to speak. And so I can really sympathize with position, meaning Mike Merles was the guy who was in charge of D&D, and whatever if he said something, people would put whatever into what he said. But once he was not in that position anymore, he could now speak freely because it's not his job. I can totally sympathize with that situation because I've been in it.
Well, I don't believe I was.
But it's interesting now that I think that I'm going to save most of that discussion for Sunday, but I think it's more dimensions, and it's an interesting proposition that Greyhawk, and it's an interesting way it's coming back, and something I never thought would happen in this way, which I think is really, really cool. But we need to get into it. But because now I want to hear more about about the story. Not that you can't get it out, but I want to hear more why it should be out, so to speak, meaning what are the implications, because you've written some cool stuff in your Shot Across the Bow, and also your book about the theory. This is so cool. You have to hang on a second so I get the title right.
Open form.
So
open form, and also the fourth category.
It's awesome stuff.
So we need to get to because you have some awesome theory discussion about the nature of RPGs and what defines them and stuff, and I think that's really cool. So you need to make some promote that.
Let me make an announcement. I am going to make a documentary. There might be a book. I'm going on 7 years of age here. I'm not the best in color. I don't talk about my health. And if there's anything I want to do before I die is to get the true history of this thing out, and you'll see the worth in it. The worth in it is because we're sitting here. if we hadn't done it, you and I wouldn't be talking, Anna, and I would. Good old Jay or Alan in 1987 at DragonCon. So one, and that's a good enough reason for me to put it out. It just on the face of it all, and to take the easy route from picking off the apple off the tree and hitting the low-hanging fruit. But if you want to go back, that would be a matter of discussion of not only personal, professional, and ethical means. That would all cross into it. There would be 3 lines that would cross as to why I believe that's important. Because the ethical really flows off of what I consider to be unethical, from my own moral viewpoint, that I would never perpetrate on somebody myself, to just to not include them in their own history, and to just brush them aside, just because gold. Or as I said in in the new ethos and game design commentaries I have, as I refer to WotC without mentioning them as gold hobble prestidigitators. So that is my viewpoint on the ethical point of it. And it's the holy dollar in a creative industry. Here we go again, about creativity, the creative mind hitting the business mind, and how they have to come to center on everything. Right. And really what it comes down to is you accept the fact that in order to get it out there, you're going to have to, the center is no longer 100%, it's maybe 50 and getting less. So I am the only one in this industry who forwarded an award, North Texas RPG Con, the 3 Castles Award. That award goes to designers, to creators. There was no such award in the gaming industry before then. They all went to the publisher. So you know my viewpoint here. I believe in the creators. The creators make the world go round. Okay? Let's go on to another subject.
All right. So, last for me. Maybe I'm saying this the wrong way.
Well, go ahead.
I think tactically there's a better way of doing it, but that's just my opinion. I'll give you an example. Let me give you an example. So I've been beating my head up against this YouTube. Twitch is great, but I'm trying to figure out how the heck can I increase visibility there. Someone gives me an idea, and this is at Page last year. You need to start doing shorts. I'm like, shorts? What are you talking about? What's short? 1 minute long vids, and I'm shocked on this. I'm doing these 1 minute long vids. I get between 6 and 10 times the viewers that I do on porting over my Twitch vids over to YouTube. I'm talking about 600-700 people watching these damn shorts because it's short attention span theater out there, right? Yeah. So I'm just saying there's ways to get that message out to culminate in this documentary. And I think Anna's talking about it with the book. And
ways to support it through these micro transaction type of engagements.
Yes, exactly. That's what that's where I'm trying to say. And when it comes out to me saying, well, beat watch during game, that's what I mean. Is that there's things out there that you can take.
My friend. You all have my best interest in mind, and all of you are much younger than I am. and that's a good thing. But I'm in the 25th hour here in my management of this, and I've already spent 3 years, unfortunately, to no avail in this one documentary because it wasn't being, we couldn't get funding for it from Hollywood. This is on the collapse right now. Hollywood's on the retreat. So I think the way to do it is to sell it to the gamers.
Okay.
Where it's worth. Now, you're going to have a product either which way you look at it. And I wish we could away from that, but we kind of got sucked back into this by you saying that,
I know. But I just want to throw it out there that that's all that. Like Anna's saying book, I'm saying shorts. I'm just saying there's ways, and I think Ed has kind of figured that out, and that's all I'm trying to say is that
a book's a book. A book's a book. How would I? When am I going to do piecemeal it out there? I don't do that.
No, well, I'm just saying you do a book and then you do a short about a chapter. That's all I'm saying. So.
Yeah, if I had that long to stage it, I'm just going to get things done, Jay.
Okay, that's cool.
Let them fall where they are,
right.
just like they're doing with.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just saying that we all have different perspectives and different expertises out here.
I appreciate input, and I measure everything. And
Cool.
I'm a thinker. I think through a lot of things. I don't say I'm going to do it this way, and then I go down that path. I say, is that the right way to go? Is there something else to do? So I'm a very balanced individual. I'm very self-introspective. I know when I'm at fault. I criticize myself. I'm my best analyst. Okay. I'm really very balanced in that viewpoint. But what I've been headed off by is really funding.
Right.
The funding is just in the short term, just to keep me alive. You people think just because I'm living in France, I have money. You're out of your gourd. I struggle. I struggle as a freelancer to stay alive. But I have big ideas, and I've got them down. And this is why people say, "How come you got all these projects that you never finish, Rob?" Because they're big projects. They're a computer game that I had to stop. They're my memoirs I had to stop because I have to go back to create these things in order to continue forward with these things. So I got them all on their face. So yeah, you might say I'm the crunch down the genius. If you give me $50,000, I could create all these things in 2 years and get everything out that I would like to get off my slate. But I don't have that money to sit back and do it. So I have to take this a little at a time and come back. I'm already moving around the pieces on the chessboard doing that. And it adds up to this. I'm going to strike at it during the time because the way we were doing this to begin with, we had the documentary going and filming. They have already been here to Corsica and filmed segments with me and stuff, but they weren't announcing it.
Right.
So it looks like we're following up on them. We're in the case we've been going at it for 2.5 years. So it's just frustrating.
Understood. Now I can truly sense it in this morning, and sorry if I came on a little strong early, but I'm very opinionated too.
You can do anything you want. This is your channel, and you've invited me.
Hey, man.
You want to start beating me with a broomstick?
No. So think about this.
Jay, 6,000-mile long broomstick hit me from across.
I've had enough stuff shoved up in a certain place recently. I've had enough probing happen to me this last week. All right, so I want to make a magic item out of that. I want to let's put this in perspective for a second.
I whacked Robolar and win.
Thursday night. I'm running thing on the Misbegotten out of the Dark Druids, right? How many people can say in the world the author of all this and a legend in D&D is actually watching the stream that I do of his work? I mean, think about that. That's pretty amazing, isn't it? So thank you.
Hey, if you want to go there, the point is I don't want to go into the Dirty Harry territory where I'm a legend in my own mind. So I've been pretty reserved about that. I'm just kind of a fan, No,
dude, but it's awesome.
Passing through and doing stuff, but these people tag me with these things. That's fine, that's great. I'm not trying to steal your thunder because it's
dude. I think it's so awesome that it's like Rob Lars actually watching me mess around with these guys with mutated rams and stuff and pigs and all sorts of things.
Yeah, I was thinking somebody said that it's like they didn't understand what was going on with all the animals.
Right, because they don't. Yeah, and that's it.
This is like Old McDonald's farm. So I started making up lyrics to Old MacDonald's Farm. I thought it was kind of cute. With a goat here and a
Exactly. But like I said, if I had squirrel miniatures, I would have mutated squirrels out there. I did have a fox, a pig, a bunch of rams, a goat. You know, it's whatever I had the minis for.
Little dark young of Shubniger here, little dark young there.
Plus,
Tuba had a farm.
Plus, you know, the Wendigo pictures in there. So I'm like, in your module, I'm like, I gotta have a Wendigo being summoned at the end. You know what I mean? I had to do all that stuff. So, all right, What
Whatever happened to that adventure? What was the end point?
So what happened was, it was the Dark Druid got away. She got away. She was one of the Tharisden Umberai cults. They killed. I don't know how they killed the frickin' Chasme, which I was shocked. They had multiple critical hits on it.
You knocked everyone out.
It took out 3 people because of the droning. It took 3 people out. And, you know, you can't. Once you wake them up, they go right back to sleep. You got to keep them completely active. So they lost 3 players, but they killed it, and that messed. You know, that was a real. And then the Wendigo came, and Wendigo was partial. It wasn't full strength. You know, it was a partial strength spirit. It was fun. It was a one shot, Rob. It was a one shot because I got the game tonight with Ed and Eric Mona and all them tonight for the Red Wedding event from Gary Con. So I was like, because remember I got to change terrain and do all this other stuff, you know. So
I got terrible lighting in this room.
That's all right. Don't worry about it.
Windows open. I got overhead light. I got a swivel light.
It's fine. It works. It works. All right. So
what is your name? Okay.
You look good.
Why don't we talk about? We're good. Do we want to go to? We got 3 brand new things. Do we want to? You tell me which one. Living room, 4th category, broadside first. Which one do you want to go to?
Oh, the difficult one first.
Which one?
The difficult one.
What's that?
The living room is dedicated. When I was writing it, good old Jim Ward, my buddy, died.
So living room.
I dedicated that to him immediately.
Great.
So, but let's go to 4th category.
Oh, okay.
We can go to the broadside. That's just my way of getting out some essays.
There you go. So I got all 3. I got all 3 set to go. So you just say which one you want to discuss. Discuss.
You had to pick one, Jay. I'm not gonna.
Alan, let Alan pick it.
Well, you could start with the broadside if you want. I mean, we could do 4th category. It's really the intro for that, but you know, whatever's easier.
All right, 4th category is an intro for broadside, so that's the
okay. I'm going to pick up a 6-sided die and roll pretty soon this evening.
All right, Alan. All right, Rob, tell us about the broadside.
Well, that's what I say. It's essays and commentary on lateral RPG design thinking, and of course, that's going to include some history. So, have you all read it, or is?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Right? Well, then you pretty much got the gist out of it. I mean,
yeah, separating the real from the fantastic.
Well,
yeah, that's hard to do sometimes.
There's been all this whole thing about realism and games, and that's covered in there, you know,
right?
Very
that's what made me dig up my program.
Well, that was the lead-in because we had that impromptu panel discussion at Dragon Con where I'd written the tournament module for RPGA, Journey to the City of Brass. And we were all getting drunk in the hotel bar with Robert Aspirin and others.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Yeah.
I don't remember. Look,
it's a good story.
Yeah, I don't remember everything. I'm gonna be honest with you here. All right, so.
Well,
so for context for folks,
that was the first essay, and I lead in with a story about how this realism comes up because the topic for the discussion given by myself, Gary, Steve Jackson,
That's cool.
And Greg Kostikian, and then the moderator, who became my nemesis during the exchange. But we pretty much put aside this whole thing about that, and within 30 minutes of it, there was nothing left, and the room was packed by people and wanting to hear us speak. So I started making these humorous asides, and which was driving the serious-minded TSR moderator crazy. He started looking at me with vehemence, and we're actually making the audience laugh. And how dare you, under such a serious circumstances, examining realism versus playability. So, read the story. I'm not going to repeat it all, but what it comes down to is I talk about how Howard Lovecraft viewed realism and fiction. And I keep on getting back to the point is that this whole thing, D&D, is a creative lateral shift of honoring those stories and bringing them forward into real time in our own way in the game. So, but the whole problem with that is that you're dealing with no longer fiction. You're dealing with a combination of fiction and math, and physics at this point. And fiction, from one page to the next, maybe at its best, is unpredictable, just like fantasy should be. Or else I don't believe you're in the realm of fantasy if you're able to predict what's going on. But and then it collides with this the math, which is predictable. It's linear, and it also collides with physics, which is the formats of games, which people become used to, and thus they know what they're contained in. Especially if you're playing a module that has already been pre-ruled or it's contained the area. This kind of actually goes back to why at the beginning of design and during the playtest, I started getting off these 8.5 by 11 maps, is because everyone was able to map them. I started going to big fanfold maps, and to bring back in uncertainty.
Change the grid size.
Yeah. Right. And so you always maintain this uncertainty, and the rest of the uncertainty with that was creating new monsters, which I'm known for, creating new monsters, magic, and everything. So you can't just reference a book. So everything's like you're starting out new each time, just like it was the first time. Now you can mix that up. You can change monsters too, and not make them as linear as they are. Because I after all the years, Jay and Anna and Alan, I now look at it may even be a little cynical, because I look at these things as when you open a monster manual, I don't see individual entries. I see math with an attached image. And because if you shift them around, you get these same linear results. You just put it over here and over there. But it's really, you're throwing math against somebody's math, or resources against resources. And I just try to get out of this non-concept driven way of this encyclopedic way of replacing math and images for stuff in the game. And this has always been the problem, which I talk about in one other interview, which is the solution is to try to break out of this constraint, this constraining area of formats, math, and to get back and at the same time get back to the fantasy of what you're trying to summon here, other than just replacing, like in a stage play, images moving from right to left off from one end of the stage to another and parading on by as a series of math and space. So, and so I follow up with that on the second essay into that area where I was going. So they're kind of linked in a sense, but they're really two aspects of the game you should really look at, and because in making it your own doesn't mean doing it, of course, exactly the same way as portrayed in the books by just going from page 2 to page 7 and saying, look, I've differentiated myself because I'm using a dragon rather than a basilisk. And so this idea that we ported this from fantasy books into this as a kind of honoring them, I think that D&D should be summoning fantasy. In a lot of cases, it's summoning math. And I see that as a collision between fantasy, the unpredictability of fantasy as opposed to the predictability of physics and math. And once you square that away against these formats that they thrust you into, this is where you make the leaps, I believe, that Arneson and Gygax were at the beginning, right? Where we were at the beginning. And to leap, because we left, when Arneson created this whole imaginary conceptual thing, he was leaping beyond mathematically contained and constrained data-driven war games, right? Well, as you shifted into it, you get these linearities. I'm not got nothing against linearity. I describe that. It's always because it adds up, A plus B. You need that at some point. But when it comes to, in fact, you need a lot of points with game systems. But what the challenge is still to draw the essence of fantasy, I believe. And there's the challenge. We can always derive the linear of the math. Can we summon fantasy and sustain it? Can you actually, and how I describe that in several articles and books and essays is you having lost track of time. You reach this moment of enchantment. So I can describe what summoning enchantment and sustaining fantasy is. But this is done by fiction writers and books. Tolkien does it very extremely well, as some others who immerse you in their worlds through their words. So that they're impressing upon you as a way of imagining what's going on. And we're certainly doing this with people because the imprints we're using are their brains. And especially at the playtest, unlike you, Jay, you have all the miniatures and stuff. Mm-hmm. We didn't have that then, or we didn't utilize them because it was more of a game of imagination. The most of the stuff we were doing to detail out something that might not be understood was drawing on a piece of paper real quickly in order to get across as a diagram of what they were sort of seeing, right, in particular situations. So the more you stayed in that, the more your imagination became tuned to that. And rather than as outwardly projected by something that's a representation of that, I'm not downgrading miniatures, I've used them myself. But I prefer this imagination-driven game. And it's not what they call theater of the mind either. Are you going to say kids playing out there in the yard as they're playing theater of the mind? Come on. We're imagining this stuff. It's just on another level, adult knowledge driven, right? That's what it has, as opposed to kids. So that's what the broadside is about, is to study these issues rather more specifically. And that's my first issue.
All right. Well,
something you mentioned, Rob, kind of stood out to me as you were talking about it early on a little bit in terms of the realism and the predictability and the uncertainty driving fantasy. Because what you're trying to do is you're trying to sort of obviously inject that into the gameplay as part of the core and the essence of the ideal way to experience that, to give you that immersion. And what struck me about it was not really a game revelation, but really that sounds a lot like what you're really trying to do with this focus on bringing the truth out and getting that story told, is to give it's the exact same thing, but not in a game context. It's in a historical context.
Well, I wish people would understand, if they don't already, and this is my point of view, is that this is a story that we're telling. I don't care. It's not, it can be scripted like in a module, and you're going to have to follow its point from A to B to C linearly. But if you were doing what we're doing at the playtest, when there were no modules and people could go which direction they wanted into the world, and you weren't constrained by a format or limited by the fact that the DM bought a $20 module and God blast it, you're going to play it because I invested in it. If you didn't have those constraints, and you're talking about the story, what the hell are you accomplishing here? So if I put you three right now in the desert and going down into a sandstone dungeon, drier than a bone, and all three of you are walking along this corridor, parched and so forth, and coming up on this terrible environment where you can't even sweat. It's drying you out before you sweat. And then all of a sudden up ahead, you see a glint on the wall of the sandstone. And you approach it and you look at it, and it's a drop of water. Now, what have I just done? Tell me, because we can translate this from fiction. If you were reading that.
You made me thirsty.
No, that's not like that. The point wasn't the thirst.
But that was what Alan weaned out of it.
Oh, okay, well, I stand corrected then. A drop of water in a completely parched environment is
treasure.
You don't know what. Why should it be there? That's the first thing that's going to be asked. How can this be? It's incongruous. Okay, incongruity is what you get when you are teasing people in mysteries, in fiction, as you're building up suspense. If you're not doing this in the game, if people are taking a walk through the park, going down a aisle in Walmart to section 7, and picking up their soap and putting it in their basket and proceeding up to aisle 8. And once they're all through with this, then they're checking out and going back to the town. And that has about as much fantasy in it as in real life when we do it. Like I go to work, I go to the store, and I go home. You know, we're not trying to replicate the real world here.
Thank goodness.
We are trying to tell a story. And so you have to adapt some of the story elements to it. So this is what I do. It was what Gary and I did. We set up incongruous situations that get you immersed in the game and thinking about in the world, excuse me, instead of about the game matter. The first object between Gygax and myself, in every case, and I'm sure it was what we learned from Arneson, was to your first objective as a DM, from Gary's and my point of view, whether he was playing in my game as Mordenkainen, who's now bald, and Ming the Merciless, or Big B, who I created, who's now a gnome. Our first objective, whether he was playing my game or I was playing him, or we were both co-DMing ours for others, was to get our players out of game and keep them out of game. So we were operating on 2 levels. We were operating on the immersive, and because of a very straightforward mathematical setup in the system of OD&D, we were able to quickly come back and forth between the two. Try that in 3.5 or 3/3 or even 5th edition now. Try as you're concentrating on the fiction, and all of a sudden you have to go over to the maths and see how quick you come out of it. Because the more you're in the math, that's what the game is about. Systems are representative of what's put into them. So is this a game about fantasy, or is this a game about motifs of fantasy now, in the modern sense? With fantasy as being a backdrop, like a stage curtain. Oh, now it's a town. Oh, now it's a forest. Well, let's drop that one. We're on stage in the theater.
Or is it a game about math?
Or is it a game about math? Or as I put it another way, have you, when these two used to be side by side as part of the system that I described in the 4th category, that they're equal right next to each other, but play and the imagination was what's driving it. That's the system. Anything that the system asks that can't be answered by the imagination has to reference the mechanics. That's the only time you reference the mechanics. And
Rob, I need to ask, when I read especially the 4th category, it's very interesting because it's kind of a deep dive into what is an RPG, and it's a lot of interesting things. I need to ask you, have you played other systems that are based on completely different premises from D&D and the like? I'm thinking about Fate, for instance, that is not driven by math.
Alan has been recommended that several times.
Yeah, because it's a game that is not based on math in any way, shape, or form the same way as D&D and its siblings, so to speak, and others. And when you talk about that part, then I think a system like Fate is probably something. If you're into that, then there's now been many different iterations of things that are very, very different in that way, not driven by math or something, very, very simple, and you just drum up the story together, so to speak. And it's interesting, and I like the now that there's so many developments in so many different directions, so the hobby is rich, so to speak. Yeah.
If you look at D&D,
yeah,
as a ball of energy that's just sitting there and pulsing. At the beginning of this whole concept of the conceptual realm of system, because this is a conceptual system.
Yep.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So if you look at it and you say, and then you see Arneson creating it, then he starts fooling with it and he starts saying, "What can you do with this?" Right? And so you get a line that comes off of it. And that pulses off of it. And then he doesn't experiment with it a lot more because he's still up that, he's still saying, "Oh, we can iterate this thing," and he's still iterating. And then all of a sudden it comes down to us and we play test it and we essentially experience what he's experienced. And then we have to go through to learn what that means in the 1.5 years that he's played it. So we have to reduplicate the iteration, right? And we use the same line that's come off of it. But this is the imagination. You say, this is what it is. Arneson's first law. I called Arneson's first law. Well, now you have fate, right? Well, that's another line that's coming off that ball. Okay? In fact, there's lots of lines that are going to come off this ball, and there's one that's being pounded to death right now, which is this templated D&D's versioning of this. Now, the one great thing about this, which is a saving grace, is that the imagination can say, if you're not going to say that you are otherwise made out of blood and you're made out of oil or a mechanism, the imagination is going to tell you, I'm going to change this. And once you sculpt it like we were doing, you start ending up with variations of everyone doing everything within the same conceptual realm, but differently. And this is how you come up with all these games. And this is how you come up with all the variabilities within the games. So nothing's a constant. With nothing has ever been a constant. And Gary said that at the beginning of OD&D, and people need to go back to his quotes, right? Because that is the base. He says, why have us do any more of your imagining for you? These rules, there are no laws in D&D. He's saying that. He says these can be changed to make them as simple or as complex as you wish. And he's not talking about necessarily math here. Right? It's what you can interject into it, because we played this thing up until the point of him saying that's enough. Everyone's going to have to fill this in the way they want to. So D&D, in essence, isn't really a game in some sense. It's kind of like a game framework.
Yeah, it's a toolkit to game.
It's a toolkit. But once you say that you're no longer the creator of the game, you move into another dimension, right? And even if, totally. If you just say, the only way I play this game is by buying the rules and buying a module, and I don't use the module other than just to play it as is, right? Then you are no longer in the same mindset, in this creative capacity.
But Rob, that's a great point. But I want to make a counterpoint that has been through D&D history, through its life, and is still very much valid. Is that as soon as you go to conventions and you want to run modules with others and you want to play with others, then you need a standard reference point, because you don't have to want to sit down at the table and tell the rules and so on to players. You need to have like a common reference point that is kind of shared by, at least agreed to in broad terms by a large sway, especially when you go into like tournaments and now organized play. Then you're supposed to be able to sit down, bring your character, sit down and play. And that requires a more kind of strict adherence to the framework, so to speak, than if you run your long-term homebrew campaign like Jay and like I've been doing for like 1/3 of the time of Jay. But still, once you playing with the same group of people you get to know and you play a story over years, then you can be much more liberal with the framework, so to speak. And you
create your own. You create your own little sub
exactly. So the situation is different depending on, and D&D is a flexible concept that it can handle both.
You're preaching to the choir. We understand that there's different games out there.
Yeah.
I mean, if we go to a convention and we play Monopoly, and then walk down the hallway and play the game of life. We understand that each and every one of those games are going to have different rules, and if it changes the rules so much that you can't understand the very base system, then yes, you're destroying the game. So if I were to take Monopoly and start adding extra tracks to it and extra cards and extra rules, and then took it to a Monopoly convention, people wouldn't understand it. But unless you sat down there and gave them the supplemental rules up front or at the table.
And that's what happened historically with D&D even.
Yeah.
They didn't get it.
And so I don't think that a minor variations are going to upset that, because it's never upset at conventions that I play, because I don't play by the strict rules.
Yeah, do I.
Neither did Gary. And most people don't.
And then I need to interject something too. That is also up to a good DM can also facilitate a lot of and help that over. That's part of the job as a DM, because
I hope that any DM getting a seat at a convention is a good DM.
Yeah, but it's a different meaning that's part of being a good DM, is to be able to handle those situations and keep the game rolling, so to speak. And I've seen a lot of good examples, and I've seen some bad ones in that sense too.
If I come into a convention, first of all, convention play is no way similar. Getting outside
that's what my point originally. It's very different from long-term home.
Conceding that you're going to lose your character, it doesn't really make a difference. because it's just a one-off.
Mm-hmm.
It's a one-off experience. That doesn't mean you're not going to play well, you're not going to DM well, but most of these convention, I'm going to have the same problem with Arnicon, is because I'm writing a convention module, but it's a module that's going to be played at the convention. But there's usually never enough time to finish these.
So yeah, and interject. That's why streaming and convention play are very similar. Just so you're aware. You have a time frame. But I'll say this: if you figure out a way to make your convention games mean something, like I have, like two of the games I did were actually in my campaign with open signups, and tonight's game is a culmination of what happened at GaryCon. Then it becomes really cool, right?
Yeah.
You
My
can
convention
do
games do the same thing. You know, my Castle Greyhawk explorations influence my ongoing campaign.
Absolutely. That's awesome.
People didn't explore the Forbidden Temple of Weejoss level for many years when I offered a palette of options for them to explore, and they picked other levels. So the cult flourished in my campaign. It grew stronger because nobody went and whacked them.
That's the fun. I think a lot of people. Good, Rob.
No, I was saying that Alan has this a liking for the Sul gods.
Well, everyone loves Leonard, right? Leonard did some wonderful stuff. You know, I mean, Ouija is just such a great deity, and Beltar, and then all of them, Falcon, are all great. You know, except Aquaman.
Rename him, and he will be good. Yeah. Aquaman. Yeah.
He's a.
Anyway, I don't know how do we get on? It's
we got on convention play. Yeah. Sorry,
it's my fault. Around the table, past the pretzels.
So, Rob, let me make a suggestion. You're going to Arnie. You're going to the con, right? First time in a while you've been back to the States and all. Why don't you say? How many times are you DMing, if I may ask?
3 times.
Pick one, just one. That you have, like, if Alan's playing in the game, or whoever, some big names, and go, this is going to affect future. This one counts, and see what happens. Just to have fun with it.
What?
Say, this is going to affect my future writing. What happens in this session? Why not? I do it all the time. Alan does it. Just see, and just as an experiment. So, like, for example, I don't know what whatever you're writing, whatever happens in that will affect the next writing based off of that, or whatever you're doing. That's all. That's all we're saying. Just try it, and just because you'll be like, the experience may be a little different at a con.
Mm-hmm.
They may be a little like, I don't want to die then, or I'm going to think about this a little bit more and not go, and not do something suicidal. I'm just saying, that's all.
You guys have really got a lot of gimmicks.
It's not a gimmick.
We could have a box of gimmicks between you and Anna.
I think it's 40. Rob, I've been DMing for 46 years it's 78, right? So I think that we've learned stuff along the way that, and not as long as you. Okay, I'll give that, but I think I've earned it. Just to figure out a way to make, like, my world, my Greyhawk, a little more full of flavor, right? Just mine personally. And from what happened at GaryCon.
So what you think adding more flavor, Jay, is if you roll a critical and wipe out a dragon in one turn because you roll the numbers, that's adding some flavor.
No.
Wink, wink.
No. He's talking about action having consequences.
That's and I'm also talking about, for example.
I think I just did too.
Yeah,
but it's like involving your audience in shaping the next project, so to speak. Let their participation.
So here's
matters.
the example. Yeah. At the end of the game with the Slav Squad at GaryCon, 2 of the characters profess love for each other. Okay. Eric Mona's character, Venarian Vord, the priest of Ralashaz, said, "I will run, be the overseer at your wedding." Right? This happened spontaneously. I had nothing to do with it as a player, as a DM. Right? I was like, "Shut." So I was like, "Okay, we're going to take your group and we're going to run this wedding event. And then Ed's group, 2 drink minimum, and them have crossed over, and they're both in it. And that's tonight from something that happened at a con. That's all I'm saying. I'm saying is, man, things can, and then people are like, wow, look what happened. It actually happened.
Really, Jay, we have to figure out how to get me online so I can start DMing people so they know.
Yeah.
Another good point, Rob.
Here's my gimmick. Okay, I am
gimmick.
people to the point where they're shitting their pants.
I understand that, Rob.
That's a straightforward way of doing things. And then when they're done, they come up to me just like they did in 1973 when we were playtesting the game, and shake my hand and thank me profusely for having scared the fucking shit out of them.
I agree 100%. So, and I'll tell you this. I'll tell you this.
And that's what you get when you play. And I don't need gimmicks for that.
It's not a gimmick. It's a DMing style, man. Let's be honest.
Not gimmicks. Huh?
It's not a gimmick. It's a DMing style. And look, I'll say to both Alan and I probably had all our games at GaryCon both sold out within 30 seconds to a minute because people want to play and they want to experience that. I mean, Alan, who'd you have? You had all those Hollywood celebrities playing your game, right?
Yep.
Legio. I mean, my God, it's just.
Kill any of them?
Pardon me?
Did you kill any of them?
Yes.
Oh, good. Not as soft as I thought you would.
Rob, I mean, seriously, we could probably figure out a way for you to DM remotely on a session on a Saturday morning and have some people playing. That won't be a problem.
Well, we discussed this many months ago. When we were talking about trying to get me, and it wasn't working, the sound wasn't working
right
on Discord. And then you said, don't pay for the extended Zoom.
Discord, right? Yeah, Discord's not, don't pay for the extended Zoom because I have it. So there's no point in paying $100 and some when I pay for it and then write it off. You know what I'm saying? But what I'm saying to you is that
why are you against? I don't know any other way to get online to do this.
Yeah, I know, but you don't need it unless you're doing it on some other medium or with other people, or we'll figure. My point is that I think. Getting back in, I'm so happy you're coming and DMing there, but there's opportunity to DM and other, DM more if you so choose. It's just a matter of figuring out logistics on that. I know.
I'm not sure what that means. Maybe I'm too literal here.
Well,
it's just troubleshooting your connectivity problems and audio problems and getting that worked through to be able to make sure that you have the internet throughput, the capacity to actually be able to maintain a standard connection for the whole duration of DMing. I would assume it would work because you're able to be on the stream now.
Yeah. And so Alan, what, for example, what connectivity do you use? Use a different one, completely different.
The tool I use is WebEx.
WebEx, that's it. Use WebEx.
Which is a Cisco product.
Right.
But yeah. But it's just an online meeting platform, so it's the same thing as Zoom.
Yeah. So, WebEx may be the way to go instead of Zoom for you DMing your own games remotely.
You got it for the Mac? Because that's what I use.
Yeah. I'm on my wife's Mac now, so I DM on the Mac. Yeah.
So all we're saying
it's just a web client, just like Zoom. You download it to a Mac or a PC. It doesn't matter what the client is.
It's like Zoom, right? You have to pay for it. Why is Jay against me wanting to spend some money to do this?
I'm just trying to help you out, man.
Well, pay for it for me.
That's all I'm doing. All I'm doing is do you need to spend $160 a year on Zoom? I don't know.
You don't have to. It's only because it's convenient. It's when you pay for it, it's smoother.
You don't
than
have
others.
limits. Yeah. So if you're using the free, the limit is really that if you're using the free account, you only get a 60-minute session length.
Right.
Before it automatically cuts off in Zoom. In WebEx, it's actually only 40 minutes.
How much is WebEx a year?
It's $20 a month. List price because I'm in the process of negotiating my renewal for it. So, but if you sign a multi-year contract, it's a lot cheaper.
Yeah, you got the contracts make it a little cheaper. So, I think, well, all right. So someone asked a Roblar question. I want to have it answered. I think we answered it before in a previous one. Colin the Benevolent, was it Rob's decision to have Lord Roblar free years and the other gods from the God Trap, or was it Morning King's?
So they backwards called this the God Trap.
I understood. Right. But that's what people know it as.
Yeah, I understand. So I got to talk in this lingo. Was Roblar? Listen, this is described in Return of Roblar,
yep.
right?
Yes, it is.
Of the 9.
I'll bring that up.
He was asked. Understand Roblar. After we retired the characters, Roblar was only semi-retired because I was the co-DM with Gary of our castle, where this takes place in Castle Greyhawk 2. So anytime Gary wanted to get something done, like he had been working on his section or whatever level or whatever he was doing, he'd say, Rob, I got something for Roblar to test out.
Yeah, you were a play tester, yeah.
And when I was doing mine, like the machine level, I said, Gary, I got something for Mordenkainen to test out. So we used our characters as springboards for testing out these things. Mm-hmm. But this time, Gary had it in mind, not only just as a test, but to actually spring through Roblar these things into existence. And so that's what happened. He wanted these things released, and it was a
that's actually the same that's actually the same mechanism that Jay was trying to describe earlier about this, what you were calling the gimmick about the game from the convention play. You took the play test of that level and then rolled that into the main campaign where the 9 gods became free.
Right.
So that's all that Jay's really suggesting with that stuff.
I'm not sure because I'm not tracking that far back. Because I don't even remember what he was suggesting because it was rather general. If you come up with a specific example, it's not that my mind can't incorporate a lot of things. It's just that it edits out a lot, which
it's all good.
As I'm trying to get the points. But that now brings back, what were you trying to say? Wasn't criticizing his gimmicks.
I know that. We know that. We're just having fun here.
I'm a straightforward sort of guy. I have a certain style about my play, just like Barker did.
We all do.
But Barker didn't use gimmicks. He came at you with Techumel. He didn't have to use any gimmicks. He had created this world. I created all my stuff. Okay, maybe I'm using the gimmick because I came up with it. Maybe I'm applying it wrong or wrongly or falsely.
No, it's just you got to times change too. I have changed my DMing style since I was live streaming it. Okay,
I've never changed my DMing style since the beginning.
Right, but you're not live streaming. If I live stream the way I used to 30 years ago, no one would watch.
Well, for me, I've changed completely. What I want out of the game is very different now when it was 20, 30 years ago. It feels a completely different need for me now. And that's why my games is very, very different from what 20, 30 years ago. Then I just wanted some kick-ass little relief once in a while, so to speak. But now it's much more different. Now it's D&D's become it's gone from my little hobby to vent now and then and now it's much more serious. It's my main thing in life right now, and I love it. Yeah,
I agree with serious fun. I think people would say get mixed reactions about me talking like that.
But, no, man, no. It's just
what I'm saying is that even though I have improved my techniques have always been in place, right? There's a difference between changing in the sense of what you were suggesting, or have been suggesting that I've changed, and because I've always gotten good reactions to my play.
Rob, I'm not suggesting change. I'm just saying that for me, want to talk about boring as hell was if I DM the way I did 20 years ago with a bunch of 50-plus-year-old white guys sitting around a table, I gotta have 3 people watching. Now, let's be honest. Okay?
It will be the 3 people sitting around the table.
Right. But I've created something immersive that I got, like, I got Luke and Eric Mona and Todd Stashwick and other people playing in the game, so I'm doing something right.
And Jay, imagine when guys were 15, 16, 18 years old, you wanted something different out of the game. Now when you're 50 plus, you want something
exactly
very different.
I want to have fun. Yeah. That's all I want. I want to have fun.
I present. Listen, Gary and I presented to the people what we presented. Mm-hmm. We didn't say, we set up situations just like
a
fiction book. You write a story, the person reads it, they like it or not. Right? And this is what it is. This isn't trying to second guess the readers. That never happens. I summon fantasy. You don't get it. You're probably not going to like my games if you just want to go out and hack and slash and kill things. There's that in there too, but it's not the main point. The main point is for you to feel like you've been immersed in a world and lost track of time doing so, and looked up and go, "Oh my God, I'm a half hour late to go pick up the pizza or whatever." So that's what I do, and I do it well. And that's my gig. If you want to get lost in a world where you are shuffling your papers thinking that you're dying as the player, then that's who you want to play with.
Every DM is different. That's the wonder of D&D.
Everything is different. That's true.
Every DM's different.
I've never been different. I have always come from the point of view that if you're going to properly immerse somebody in a fantasy world, you better scare the shit out of them, because that's the only way you have in order to do it. You have to make them feel that they're there. They're no longer in a game. They're no longer comfortable in their game life. So when these people used to walk through the door, whether it was in my house in 334 Madison Street or Gary's at 330 Center, which we were in a straight line from each other, 3 streets. That the first thing to me as a DM is that, one, these people are coming out of real life. I have to take them out of the life and take them out of the game and put them in fantasy. Now, we can always sit back, as I said before to Alan. We can sit back and have fun. And we can sit back and have fantasy and fun, right? One of them involves rolling dice and having fun, and everyone has a good time, goes home, right? The other one has another little piece attached to it, which cannot be counted unless you succeed or fail with it. So my point as a DM is to serve my players. And what do I serve them? I serve them what they deserve for playing a fantasy role-playing game. That's my point of view. It is fantasy. That's it.
No, it's definitely in Greyhawk's a great setting to have that fantasy setting in. It's just awesome.
Yeah, always will be. You're going to be the biggest, longest running campaign on Earth for Greyhawk.
It's fun. It is, and it's just. And I've said this, the wonders of the game is Alan DMs differently than I DM, than Ada DMs that you DM. We're all different, and that is what makes it such a charming game. Is that that there's little nuances. Carlos Lysing's different than me. Tim is different than me.
Well, I hope everyone's different.
That's it.
I hope everyone agrees that we are playing a fantasy game.
Absolutely, 100%. 100%.
So what can you tell us about the Arnicon adventure, Rob?
Yeah, please.
Have you kind of formulated the sketch for it and such?
I have 5,000 pages and one map out of the 2.
Did you say 5,000?
Written
pages?
No, oh,
Five
words. You
words.
mean?
Oh my God! I thought you said
Yeah.
pages. I was like, oh my God. I'm
No,
sorry.
no. Not writing the treatise of the world.
What's the name of it?
Into the Wild Blue Yonder.
Cool. What levels
Which is-
roughly?
Which is it's the 10th to 12th.
Good. Nice level. Meaty.
They go down into the realm of the dead.
That's awesome. Gonna meet any old personalities?
Ah, yes. Ooh. One that's dead, and well, both are dead. Actually, I can't tell you too much about it.
Oh, I know.
No, we know that. Yeah, just curious.
It does involve Marfelt the Barbarian.
Cool.
If you ever read up on, and remember, this is an Earth adventure. I mean, it's taking place up in the Blackmore area, and I can tell you where you enter it is in the Goblin Hills there.
Okay. Cool.
And it's a send up to my friend of 50 plus years, Dave Arness. And I write a splendorous preface to it as well. So I am pouring in my essence into this as a send up to Dave and what he's accomplished by coming up with this system, this new RPG system, and unveiling it to us during the Blackmore demo game. And enough can't be said for that. So I can't tell you too much about it. I don't want to throw out too many spoilers before
Right.
No, but it's good. It's a good teaser.
The fellowship of the thing, that's Griff, Morgan, and Chris, who are publishing it for the convention. So let them make their announcements about what they're doing with it at the proper times. But they're releasing their own book too on the Blackmore Foundations at the convention.
Yeah, we should have the copies of that at North Texas, actually. They think they're going to have it done in time.
Wow,
yeah.
Cool.
So there's a lot going on. These are the people who started it all. Greg Swenson and Dave Wesley, Dave McGarry. I think Mike Carr will be there. So he was the bishop in the game, and so these are the people who started the first role-playing game that was non-commercial, and then they worked together, to do the OD&D. So that needs to be covered in this documentary. I wish to make too, maybe somewhat redundant after Griff's Secrets of Blackmore.
There's a lot of room, I think, to delve into more specifics there, Rob.
Well, I think that you have to really conjoin the two. If people would just get over the fact that this whole argument about Gygax and Arneson has been dead for a long time and it's been over, and just get on with dealing with the history of
history, exactly.
Yeah,
and
true.
That's part of the truth, Just like with the documentary, I'd love to get Eric Mona involved. He was always a great player for and a person for Greyhawk as well. He brought out all the Paizo Hawk stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
I see Eric tonight. He's playing in the game.
Tell him to answer my email.
I will relay that information. Venarium Ford. The entire thing tonight is based all around that character, his specialty priest of Relish as Venarium Ford. I'm bringing out some stuff. I said I need creative license tonight, Eric.
He's married within the game now.
What's that?
You say he was getting married?
No, he's
in the game.
He's conducting the marriage, right?
He's the officiator.
He's officiating the wedding.
Yeah.
He's officiating. The priest of Relishaz is marrying to.
Yeah, his character is. Yeah.
And that's the thing that came from Gary Con. It's just like wow.
Yeah.
So
damn look for.
It's a gimmick. Yep.
It just sounds like you segued into It started there and it's now ending up here.
Yeah.
What
I'm not
transpired?
as active with you. It takes. I couldn't do your schedule, Jay. I don't know. Rob, do you still work?
Yeah, full time.
So it's just amazing what you cram into your
Thanks.
life. I could never keep up with you.
Today's crazy. I go from here to my mom's birthday party, back and to the game at 6:00. I normally don't do that, but I wanted to fit you. I wanted you to be in here this morning. Because the time. I know Alan's got to go in 20 minutes as well. But yeah, so the schedule's nuts, man. But that's part of doing it.
I could never keep up with you. I couldn't keep up with Gary. He was Mr. Energy. He was very driven.
So, any other questions you two, Anna, Alan, you have, and then, or I'll take some from the audience.
I had one when I read the fourth category. What are the other three categories of game? And I'm sorry for my ignorance on the gaming topic because
it was in the advertising for it, and I should have put up the preface.
Yeah.
Now you have tabletop games, which is where D&D has been placed, which I believe, of course, is erroneous.
Yeah.
Because of what I explained. You have parlor games, and we know about those, charades, so forth.
Yeah.
So, and then you have what is called the physical activity games, or outdoor games, and that's a wide category, from sports to activity games for kids.
Mm-hmm.
Twister.
And Twister and croquet.
Yeah.
And table, may even some outdoor tennis with badminton.
Well, the traditional sports in that sense, and
but also it also goes into the kids' games of tag, hide and seek.
Mm-hmm.
So it's anything that requires either single or group activity outside and the outside. And those are really what were categorized as the three games. And now if you look at it like in a PD article, it's really crazy.
Yeah.
Because you now have computer games, but D&D didn't start out as what was a tabletop game. I think by the introduction of it making it more of a miniatures game by putting miniatures and battle maps, you can go that direction with it, but it should say that that's a permutation of the beginning of the game because it was all imaginative. Now people look at Gary saying it could be played with miniatures, pencil, paper, and miniatures. But there were no miniatures at the time. It won't be until another year or two that Scooby even comes out with those miniatures for the game.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we, as I write on this, we're just using whatever you could adapt for these things. I'm writing something on that right now, which will be released as a product, which includes all the conversions and all the stuff from chainmail and stuff. But there were no miniatures. It's, like I said before, it was just all imagination. So this starts out, and it's the same thing with Blackmore crowd. So they never used miniatures except for the mass combat. Otherwise, they were just playing imagination as well.
Yeah.
And to do this, so this is what makes that the conceptual part of the game, which is interesting because as Griff points out, Griff Morgan points out, Blackmore was more at the beginning a kind of a variable game that had had the built-in campaign play to begin with, plus there was the conceptual going into the dungeons, and this is what everyone then gravitated towards. They liked playing this fantasy game of singular characters instead of commanding their armies in the campaign structure. So everyone gravitated down to doing that. Whereas in D&D, the way Gary inverts it in this model of a corporate ladder model, as I call it, to scale up to then control your armies and build your your strongholds and everything and go off there.
That's kind of interesting because D&D has part of its roots in wargaming, and then it went down to the individual level, and then you have rules and stuff to re-engineer it back into a war game again.
Right
It's
back
interesting.
up,
Yeah, it's interesting that the D&D has gone full circle probably more than once, so to speak.
Well, yeah,
its
certainly
history.
because Artisan started as a campaign and then moved into the dungeon.
Yeah.
Where they said, this is great. We don't want to do all this anymore.
Every decade or every 2 decades, there is like a new attempt to make it into a war game again and to go full circle. So yeah.
Yeah. Alan, you were going to say something.
Nope.
Oh.
So I know we had a couple questions in the audience. I think we answered most of them. It's Rob, 50 years, right? Not everything's a rose garden at this point. I agree 100%.
Yeah.
And I don't trust anyone.
I'm not whining. I'm not. I don't.
No. I'm not saying you are. What I'm saying is that reality.
I'm still living, and if I'm going to do something about it, I should do something about it. If not, I should just shut up and fade the black. I'm not fading the black. I'm going to do something about it.
Nobody wants you to fade to black.
No,
well, we don't.
No, and it's so great to hear that you're going to be DMing, in the U.S. Coming up. Yeah. That's awesome. That's a fantastic thing.
People are starting to take notice. I got several friends who are going to be attending.
That's great.
Yeah. Terry wrote to me. I don't know if he's going to be able to be there or not, but I'll pass along a message from him as well.
That'd be nice to see my brother again.
Mm-hmm.
Still in San Francisco. Did they fly him in for GaryCon?
Not this year.
Wow. So both Kuntzes who were there at the beginning of this were not absent from GaryCon. Very noted. But that's what people choose. I don't understand, but that's how it goes. Well, anyway, any more questions?
So we got about 10 minutes, so I just want to say,
I'll try to keep that in mind as I'm answering.
Any other things you'd like to shout out?
Exactly. Now it's promotional time.
We didn't talk about living room. I could kind of.
Oh, please.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Living rooms is what I should call it. I took Gary's appendix of furnishings and furniture from the back of the DMG and turned all these things into magical, animatable and interesting things, and then added my own. So that was dedication to war.
Yeah, dedicated Jim. That's great.
The fortunate news when you're writing something that he would have enjoyed.
We were all there for the first weekend of GaryCon and found out that he was still going to try and come in the second weekend. It was really a shame. It was sad.
So anyway, it goes from A to W. It's alphabetized.
Okay.
And it really and there's a little mini adventure included in it that segues off of one of the items. So, because I made some of them purposeful with concept orientation.
Right.
And I made some of them general. But there's not, I didn't want to have a whole bunch of them always just being numbers, and you change it from a cabinet whacking you with its doors and chasing you down the hallway to a dresser doing the same thing, right?
You wanted more than just math templates.
Yeah, there's a lot of differentiation.
Great. I see you have an exploding toilet in here. That's awesome.
There's all sorts of weird stuff.
We all are kids at heart still, Rob, to this day, right? Toilet humor is awesome. No, I appreciate it. I appreciate that. Oh, look at that. You got the globe and everything here. Yep.
Yeah, well, I don't have it. There's all sorts of things. And plus it sets up for you to create your own living rooms with it.
Yeah.
And you go beyond it. I even put in some stuff that's kind of
shrines.
Mutable in which way you can go with it.
Yeah, it's cool.
So
is that Holloway? Is that a Holloway art on the front cover?
Yeah.
Yeah. It looks
what
awesome.
It was the Jim had done that for living room, the living room, which was just a very slim offering I made on that, which was redone for Beyond the Living.
Right, this one.
And was incorporated, and I added 2 more sections. Well, that used to be the original cover, but it was black and white. So David Gambera from Italy, who did the Gargax's Glorious Yugos cover, inked that. Okay, so he inked Holloway's black and white, which is just a great. If you look at Holloway's style there, it's just so much going on, you know. But yeah, it doesn't lose its orientation, right? Of the eye. He was really a great artist.
He was.
Yep.
Very underappreciated and underused.
And he's such a big part of Dragon Magazine history because he's done so much Dragon Magazine art and especially the first like 20, 30 years.
Yeah.
Yep.
He was the go-to guy to get things done. He could, but if they just let him sit back and do.
Was he on TSR's staff as an artist, or was he just freelancing?
No, he was on their staff.
Okay, yeah.
And up until they did the purge of the artists, right, Alan?
Yeah.
And they purged the artists out of there.
Well, they ran out of money during the Lorraine era. I think that's when that happened. Yep.
So, but because he was so good, he could do the line art real quickly. And that's why he went. That's why you see a lot of his stuff in Monster Manual too, right?
Yeah.
And because he could quickly get it done, it's just kind of like the way Sutherland did. Trampier was much more meticulous and the way he did things because he used different methods, scratch boards and stuff like that. Sutherland could put them out, and so could Holloway. But Holloway had fine control of his line. If they just let him do some more, like I did, Karen of the Skeleton King. Look at that. People they look at that cover and they say, "Oh, he's using that's digital," because they're looking at the spray in the back. But really, what it was airbrush.
Yeah.
He was using airbrush in his garage. And it's he was a phenomenal artist, and
he had a really wide range of styles he could do too. Yeah.
And then people seem to then say, well, he seems to have matured. No, he was already mature. I mean, it's at TSR. It's just he wasn't allowed to really hit his range, and then he goes to and doing for West End, Paranoia. And so they say he has the peculiar ability of summoning emotion in different. If you would just look at the living room picture there, the different types of emotion and looks that are going on amongst all the various people, you can start really seeing his ranges. I mean, the one guy getting the fork in the head with the shield. I mean, he's got the natural reaction of what would happen. He'd be squinting on one side, he's being hit, and then kind of like the pain being shuttled through his brain. He was very good at portraying very realistic situation. A guy with the noggin on his head, who's laying there, has been busted in his unconscious looking hurt. Yeah, it does summon the real and the funny, and it's actually very good. I mean, when you look at Karen, there's nothing very funny about that cover. It's very serious. Same one with Tower of Blood.
Yep.
Yeah.
Very serious point of impact. But yeah, it was fun writing that. I had a lot of fun. And it's a lot of different things in it. I would only want to engage at my own table. So I don't pass off fluff stuff. I put in fact, I had to dumped 3 items or 2 off of Gary's list because I couldn't figure out a way to make them interesting. It could have been just 2 separate cases of that happening. So if I can't make something interesting, I'm not going to fluff it off. So a couple of items off the list weren't included. But most of the items in Gary's list, which is, I think, Appendix E, furnishings and furniture are in there. And I have a lot of fun twisting them. So Jay, thanks.
Of course. And just note everything in here in the course of discourse is amongst friends here. No matter if we both get a little contentious here and there. It doesn't matter. It's discussion.
Well,
it's talk.
I had to argue with Gary. You think I'm scared of you?
No. No one's really scared of me. No one's scared of me. My players aren't.
That wasn't my point. My point was that we all, if they think that life is all, I mean, there was arguments all the time at the tables.
Sure, all the time. Absolutely.
Get hot and they want to get things done, and they say, "Oh, that's not what I meant," or whatever. It's just human. You're a good guy, so is Alan, and so is Anna. You know.
Well, yeah, absolutely.
You're a good girl. Excuse me.
It's okay.
Anna's,
you're one of the guys.
Well,
I've been around long enough, so yeah.
All right, so we're gonna do the quicker. You're gonna do the giveaway.
You're married to a veteran, right?
Yeah, I am a veteran too. Yeah.
Yeah, you are a veteran.
Mm-hmm.
So you know, we want to. Okay, Jay, take it away.
So Alan, Anna and I we're gonna do shout outs for. I'm gonna do one for tonight, but you got anything going on you want to talk about? I know you got a roll, so.
Just getting ready for the North Texas convention. So I'll be actually running the second round playtest that I did at GaryCon. So the characters will be invading an Ixtacatl lair. So
awesome.
High level adventure, 12th to 17th level characters.
Wow, great. Now that's fantasy. Get out there and push the boundary.
Yep.
Tonight.
It doesn't always have to be just scaling it up for the numbers either. It becomes more interesting at that level.
Yeah. So I'll also be running my playtest for the Janelle Jaquays tribute adventure I wrote in January.
Oh, awesome. Yep.
What's the name of that?
I'm currently calling it the roundabout level. So we'll see. Yeah.
So
got
appreciate
too many
it,
of
Alan.
them.
Rob, Alan, Anna, I appreciate you all coming on tonight, 6:00 Eastern. I don't know where this is going to go because I don't know how even long the wedding ceremony is going to take place because Eric Moon hasn't told me much about what he's doing. So
holding his cards close.
I have no idea. Just note something that happened. It's tonight.
Well, that's tonight.
Tonight at 6 p.m. Eastern. So I have no idea. Just note, I've taken a lot of creative license with this. It's going to go off the rails. Something that happened during Virtual GrowdCon 1 almost 5 years ago in gameplay that Eric Morin caused. His character is going to come back to haunt them. That's all I'm going to say. Some of you know. I'm not going to ruin the wedding ceremony, but look, we got Ed Greenwood and Eric.
Oh, you have Eric to ruin this.
I have Eric to ruin it himself. And Bones, Darling, Myriad, Tony Winslow, Brill, Eric Mengi, and some other special guests, which are going to make some cameos.
Awesome.
I don't want to ruin, tonight. And just, I'll give one hint of something that's going to happen. And this is going to be really obscure. Some of you will get it. Danny DeVito, Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Oh dear.
You can figure that one out if you know what I'm talking about, that hint. So, Dale. I didn't say anything. So, but let's see who wins the giveaway. What's that?
Cataclysm.
It's going to be wonderful. Comma. I'll send you the gift certificate when I get back from my mom's birthday party. So there you go, comma. Grats. We're going to raid into someone. I don't know who the hell they are. I've been searching. Why not? Terrafe RPG. There's no one else on. So this is where we get a shot. We raid into someone, and they ignore us, so be it. But If they say thanks, great. So,
And we will be back Sunday again with
oh yeah,
Gabbin.
here Sunday night. That's wrong. That's Wednesday.
about
Everything you
Greyhawk.
want to know about Vecna and the Euroflan. So we also have Gary. We'll have Gary Hooligan coming on with Sam Wise about that one. And tomorrow night is Greyhawk's future bright or dark? I just tomorrow night we'll do a lot of speculation talk. And
It
probably
is
have
speculation
some arguments.
time. Yep.
Yeah, have some arguments there too. So thank you all for coming on, and we'll see you. And Rob, it's
See y'all
always a
later,
pleasure.
guys.
See you all soon, and let me go to the exit screen. I'll probably screw this up, but I thought I fixed my subscriber thing, but it didn't. It's still working on the old ding ding ding. I just don't know what's going on with that. You'd think they'd make things work better, but they just don't half the time. So it's nuts. Here, give me 1 second here. We'll set the raid up and go. Once again, Terrafe RPG. No, I know nothing about them. So well, give someone a little break here. I see we're going with 50 people. Of course, raid. I'm not going to show because I don't have them followed. Search Terra RPG. All right, here we go. They only got 9 people watching, so this will be good for them. Hope you all have fun. Have a good day. Time for me to wish my mom a happy birthday.
Yeah, and see you
time
guys
for Alan to
later.
get haircuts.
Right.
So here we go. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. See you later tonight.
Catch up.
There we go.
All right. Good
See
to
you
see
guys.
you, everybody. Rob, I'll circle back with you. I think we're in the process of finding the Word documents you were looking for in addition to the PDF files. So we should be able to get that